On March 31st, 1968, over 200 African Americans met in Detroit, Illinois. They were there to sign the Declaration of Independence. No, not that one. This one. Nearly a century after African Americans were free from slavery, the black community still found itself in purgatory, stripped of rights and privileges. These 200 black radicals decided that enough is enough. If the United States would not support its black population, then African Americans should separate from the United States and create a new nation. There, black people could live in prosperity, free from inequity and oppression. In their Declaration of Independence, the would-be government of the Republic of New Africa made several bold claims about how the United States oppressed African Americans and why the Republic of New Africa would resolve this repression. First, they claimed that African Americans were never citizens of the United States. America granted former slaves citizenship against their will and proceeded to strip away the guaranteed rights of citizens from these former slaves and their descendants. Second, rejection from standards of American society. Because of segregation, black people were never incorporated into society. When black people demanded for change, America rejected the change. Third, the lack of freedom for black enterprise. The American government actively diminishes black businesses by not giving them trade or bank credit. Without this, black businesses can't prosper and they will fall under the control of white businesses. Lastly, exemption from racist wars. America has always oppressed its black people by imposing curfews and by patrolling black populated streets. If America treats its black people like this, why should black people fight in racist wars? New Africa also incessantly emphasizes the importance of land in black politics. The basis of true freedom, independence, and political power for African Americans was always stated by black radicals to be land. The Republic of New Africa promises to resolve all these issues within America that inhibited black progress. The Republic of New Africa, the name of the new proposed new nation, may have seemed like a radical novel idea for its time, but the idea of an independent black nation predates New Africa by decades. The New Africa independence movement and its principles were influenced by legacies of previous radical black nationalists like Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, and many others. Their ideas to seize and form a black nation came from Reconstruction. In fact, coordinators of New Africa were associates of Malcolm X. Only a year before the Republic of New Africa was founded in Detroit in 1968, two brothers, Gady and Amari Obadel, had formed an organization called Malcolm X Society. After the declaration of New Africa, the two brothers elected former NAACP leader Robert Williams as president of the new nation and continued working for the creation of New Africa. Regarding the proposed new black nation, the New Africa independence movement designed 5 states in the Deep South as their national territory and moved its headquarters to Mississippi in 1970. This decision saw thousands of blacks move into the South after the Great Migration, as well as a schism in the movement. Internal conflict, as well as external conflict by the FBI, caused the movement to be targeted. A raid in 1969 by Detroit police led to 140 people being arrested. 2 years later, the FBI raided their headquarters and arrested 8 people. Despite the raids, New Africa saw the most progress and controversy in the few years following its formation, but its significance and larger scope of black freedom and civil rights lie in the movements it inspired. New Africa saw the most progress and controversy in the few years following its formation, and the organization still lives on today. But the Republic of New Africa's significance in the larger scope of black freedom and civil rights lies in the organizations it inspired. While the notion of an independent black nation within America was not realized, what was the legacy of the New African independent movement? The legacy of the New African independence movement comes most prominently from their influence of the grassroots movements, alongside their fight for workers' equity through the Cooperation Jackson program. Through the mid-1970s all the way to the late 1900s, the New African independence movement associated with 2 major splinter groups, holding the New African allegiance, these being the New African People's Organization and Malcolm X grassroots movement. Both movements, as described by Edward Onachi, author of Free the Land and professor of Black Studies at Ursinus College, as focused primarily in community-wide organizations primarily focused on widespread change over the Republic of New Africa's hierarchical power. Furthermore, they intended to fight a people's war for territorial hegemony of the Black Belt states, with figures such as militant Felda Olatunji taking part in violent acts of resistance towards the United States. The organization took greatly from the ideology of Black Panthers and their template platforms, taking multiple of their own tenets from the Panthers. Such tenets especially influenced the Malcolm X grassroots movements, which studied and adopted the methodology of Black Liberation Army fighter Asaka Shakur. On the other hand, Cooperation Jackson is a modern movement whose roots lay in the fight for economic justice, self-determination, and democratic rights for African people of the Deep South. Its methodology is laid closely the Jackson Kush Plan, an economic structure from the new African independence movement whose cornerstone is creation of jobs with rights, dignity, and justice that generate wealth and distributed equity based on the principles of cooperation, sharing, solidarity, and democracy. Furthermore, Cooperation Jackson pushes for collaborative, collective action based on the inspiration of democratic leaders such as Fannie Lou Hamer and the Freedom Farm Cooperative. Although the fight is long for the members of Cooperation Jackson, the main agenda is to become the first major network of predominantly worker cooperatives to be established in an urban area. So, if you were still wondering about the legacy of the new African independence movement, the simple answer is that they still coordinate for black workers' equality, attempted to fight a people's war in the 1980s and the 1990s, and keep tenets of black self-determination and Malcolm X alive. Thank you, and please always remember the struggles of black self-determination carried out by the new African independence movement.